Please don't you go. Slow Getting up your song of the moment? Download and indulge in the tracks you love over and over again with Spotify Premium. Tune in to discover an ad-free music listening experience where you can play your favorites in any order. Tap the button to learn more. You must have sent over the bones the way you used to smile. I used to write for you daily, but my thumbs are running dry. Maybe no song. I should have listened to you so you from the start, but now maybe it's about since I have nothing left to say that will make you change your mind. Make you change your mind. I'll say goodbye on a beautiful spring day. All for you, darling, this is all for you. Won't you tell me how to prove that everything I do it all for you. It's a part of learning how to love and be loved. ¿Cómo estaba?
Sorry if I made it seem like the stream is all that I see, but I'm here right now. Do you believe me now? Remember who you're talking to. I would give it all for you. Darling, this is all.
Hello, hi Amy.
Hi, Brandon. Because there is a new topic I'm interested.
Yes. Okay, can.
Hey, I'm very new.
No worries. No worries. No worries. You're all here to learn. Yeah. And this is an important thing to learn.
Yeah. Because I found that this is a new AI.
Yes, Claude. Yeah. So Claude can do a lot of things. So which I will show you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, are you Singaporean?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Why is that so?
No lah, I asked lah because the team is global ma.
Yeah. The team is global, yes. Yeah. Okay, talk later.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, having dinner?
Okay. I don't know who you are, but maybe we in another life could fall in love, have it all, and chase our daydreams. But here we are, sat across from on an empty train, getting lost in thought. Maybe I'll never know your name. Still I can picture us 1,000 ways. And as you leave my mind astray, could it mean something, or am I lost in the view? Cause I don't know who you are, but maybe we in another life could fall in love, have it all, and chase our daydreams. But here we are, sat across from one another on an empty train, getting lost in thought. Another life could fall in love, have it all, and chase our daydreams. But here we are, sat across from one another on an empty train, getting lost in thought.
I think a lot of Singaporeans youth like us, right? We always chung. When are we stopping? We're not gonna stop.
Self-esteem go down when they see other people's LinkedIn. They say, "Wow, you're stacked with awards."
They say that life starts when you're 30. Like they say lah, not I say one lah. They say, and I agree.
In a world that moves too fast, this is a space to pause and listen to stories and perspectives that often go unheard. So stop scrolling and start listening.
Please don't call me for the wrong reason. We both know exactly what I'm thinking.
Weeks pass and I never grow tired, cause I never said never and I barely ever lie. I'm on the road to an original place and out of space. I didn't make it up, but you can't find it on a phone or a globe. And
Listen on Spotify.
Really wanna go, oh, baby, don't I can't move on. I can't.
Lonely, every day feels the same. I don't need anybody to share my day, but I can't lie, I think it would be Tell my friends to pinch me hard, cause it couldn't be real. Is this a dream I'm living? Lord, let me please, cause I can't get over you. I'll be putting on a suit, be tiptoeing at you, if you're down for it. We got nothing else to do, and nothing else to lose, and I'm down for this.
Hi all, how are you? Let me turn off the music. Okay. So for people who are here early, so I'll just start recording right now. I've actually recorded when I started the Zoom room, so I won't forget later. Yeah, and thanks for coming in early. Yeah, so that we can start early and then we can end early. Yeah, so today, right, I would like to still touch on Cloud Cowork. Okay, so Cloud Cowork, and then mainly what we'll be doing is first of all we'll be doing our research proper. Okay, and after doing the research, then we'll build the email, the co-emailing machine. Everything all done within one proper place, which is all within Cloud Cowork itself. Okay, and then why are we using Cloud Cowork instead of other like ChatGPT or Gemini or what? Yeah, because Cloud Cowork, right? It's like it's able to do a lot of things. Yeah. First of all, it's able to connect to a lot of tools that you're already using. And second of all, it has a very good AI, which is Claude. Okay, so Claude is very smart and in using all the tools and also in terms of reasoning and all. And then thirdly, right, is because of the scheduled tasks. So when you are having like scheduled tasks, right, so it's like building your end-to-end or make.com workflow. Yeah, because everything is already connected for you. So it will run, yeah, GM, Kingsley. Yeah. GE. Why in crypto world no one says GE? Everyone says GM. Yes. Yeah. GE is yeah. Oh yeah, because crypto is every day is morning all in around the world, right? It's 24/7. People don't sleep in crypto world. I used to be in the crypto world if y'all don't know. So I've been in crypto um yeah for a year and a half or 2 years. And then I had my own startup. So I was working on my own startup, which is a sleep to earn ecosystem. I built out the whole freaking ecosystem, which includes the sleep to earn. Uh, okay lah, the company made lah. So I was just the hired CEO. Yeah. So which I came up with the whole blockchain idea. So to integrate into the business itself. Yeah. And then after that, I built the whole ecosystem, which included the sleep to earn. Yeah. So sleep to earn, that means it's you actually earn crypto while you're sleeping. So it actually detects your sleep score. Yeah. So the idea was to have everyone's sleep data, and then after that, right, I would have recommended them for some kind of sleep services. Let's say their sleep score is low, right? Then after that, my AI will come in and then I'll recommend them. Okay, maybe you need a new pillow, or maybe you have snoring problem. Okay, so let's solve your snoring problem. So the AI will automatically detect and then suggest them some kind of products or services that they need, right? And then after that, they will get all the points, right, from my app. And then after that, they can actually buy things offline in our sleep store, our sleep town. Yeah. So sleep town is actually a mattress store, yeah, a real mattress store. And then during that time, right, my partner and I, we actually opened in Singapore and also Malaysia. Yeah. Yeah. But unfortunately, the project died after a while because crypto, it go up and down, go up and down. So during when it was down, right, everyone just dumped the coins. Yeah. Dump our coins. So no one hold our coin. Yeah. They never rug, right? They rug me. It was the market. Yeah. So when you see Bitcoin and Bitcoin drops, right? Then every other coin will also drop. Yeah. So not my fault lah. It was the market's fault. Yeah, but no choice. So that was a very good lesson. Yeah, because I learned how to be able to do marketing. I mean, in terms of Web3 marketing. So Web3 marketing, you don't need to do ads because it's not possible to do ads on Facebook, Instagram, or Google. Yeah. So the only thing we can do is do community, the organic, and also your AMA. AMA is like your Ask Me Anything. So you do it on Telegram, on Discord. Yeah. Okay, so enough said. Okay, let me get to um our class today. Okay. So the first part, right? I'll be showing you guys how do we do a prospect research. Okay. Yeah. So this prospect research, right, we'll be using Claude Cowork. Okay. So there's 5 layers of the web research, and then we won't be touching on other tools other than just Cowork itself. All right. And then also have a documentation where you just copy and paste everything, hand it over to Claude Cowork. Yeah. I think you will love it. Everyone's ready, ready, type ready in the chat. I don't see participation. If there's no participation and then everyone's sleepy, then I won't share a lot of things.
Yes, yes, ready.
Ready. Today, there'll be bonus as well. I'll be sharing on the Claude design. I didn't plan for this, but then since I've already done it, so I can just show you guys what is Claude design and what is Google Stitch and why do we need to use that. Yeah. Okay, so the problem with cold outreach, right, is just a numbers game, right? So every hour you spray blindly without doing a proper research. A sharper solopreneur has just closed a client. So you DM 100 business, you get 2 replies. And then both you know they are price shoppers, no close. And number 2, you don't know what they need. You pitch chatbots to a shop with 5 customers a day is insulting. Okay? Number 3, you sound like everyone else. Hi, or offer Facebook ads. Every solopreneur send that line today. And number 4, you burn out before commission comes in or before money comes in. 3 weeks of grinding, 0 invoice, and back to corporate job. So the fix is what you ship in the next 45 minutes. A working prospect research machine for local businesses so that are also doing services and then real money, no paid tools. Okay. So this is the step 1, right? So step 1 is you give the vertical, an instruction, and a location. Okay, let's say your location is, your vertical is, let's say, tuition centers or universities in Singapore, in Malaysia, in KL. If you want to go granular, also can. Right? It all depends on how big is your area. Because we have people, we have friends in USA. So of course, I wouldn't say give me tuition centers in USA, right? Because that's really huge, too big a market for you to do research. So once you define your vertical and location, right? Or geography, whatever you call it. Step 2 is your Claude Cowork will go and hunt. It finds business on Google Maps, on Facebook and LinkedIn, while you just sit down there and drink a coffee. Okay. And it does a 5-layer scan. It scans through the legal websites. Okay. There are digital, identity, decision maker, signals, and service feed per prospect. All right. And then after that, you receive a batch of sheets. Okay, 3 to 10 prospect in one run, ranked A to D. Of course, we can do more, but then because this is just a demo that I want to show you, so we'll just do 3 to 10, and you'll rank A to D. Okay. And after that, you will also receive a specific hook for each prospect that is ready for you to send. So here's the architecture: 4 pieces, 1 loop. You feed Cowork a vertical, and it finds and researches the business. Then you DM or you send an email, and then you repeat. So this is if you are doing the DMs, right? If not, we can build the email machine later, and then after that, you just hand it over to the email machine. Okay. So just now I mentioned you set the vertical location, keyword hunts, do the map and web research, and then after that, it does the 5-layer research per prospect in batch. Okay, and then it ranks A to D. Okay, so who should we target first? So we want to target people who are small enough to need you and visible enough for us to do research. So small enough, as in we want to have like solo operated, okay, or maybe 1 or less than 10 shops, okay, like your tuition centers, enrichment schools, aesthetic clinics, dental, TCM, F&B, with 1 to 3, okay, or maybe 1 to 3, not 1 to 10. Salons, your nail bars, spas, or anything that you think you are already in. If let's say you're already very deep down into that industry, right? Then just target the industry. Okay. Real estate agents, the top 10 producers, fitness studios, yoga, Pilates. So you want to skip all these, the franchises, because the HQ they do the marketing, right? The franchisee don't do the marketing. MNCs, if you go to MNCs, the procurement will block you. They will ask you to submit your pitch deck, and then they will ask you to go for a tender as well. As well as for government linked, they ask you to do tender. We want to avoid one-man shops with no IG, no Google presence, nothing at all. Okay. Or businesses that are younger than 6 months. All this we don't want target. So everything you need, $0. So ACRA paid for. So ACRA, right, is the registry for businesses in Singapore. Okay. You might have something similar in Malaysia or in US. What we'll be using Google Maps. So Google Maps, you can find a lot of things inside. You can find the name of the company. You can find reviews, photos. So it gives us hints whether this company, this business, right, is live or not. Okay. So every local prospects, they live here first. And then we start every research run on maps. And what else are we going to use? We can use sgpbusiness.com. This one is for the status, the directors, and the capital. Bizpedia.sg. You can have your other company directory, right, in Malaysia or US or whatever country that you are going to target. You can add that in. Yeah. And then another thing is we want to find if they are running ads. Okay. Are they running ads right now? Yeah. And we want to go to LinkedIn and find the decision maker, headcount, their website, age, mobile, phone number, booking form, Instagram, engagement. Yeah. How is the Instagram? Are they posting actively? When was the last time they post? Okay. SSME info. I believe this is for Malaysia, right? This is like your business directory. Okay, thank you, Nisa. So here are the 5 layers, right? So each layer answers a different question before you approach. The first is legal. We go through the legal business directory. Okay, is this business real? Number 2, digital. Okay, we want to find out about their digital footprints. How modern are they? Their website, their maps, IG, FB. So we can go in, right, with an angle to sell our services. For example, I want to sell website services because I see, wow, their website, geocities.com. Who remember geocities.com? A bit too old, GeoCities. So you know my age already. Everyone keep quiet. No one knows what's GeoCities. Blogspot.com. Anyone know? Blogspot.com. If you know blogspot.com, that means I also guess your age. I can guess your age. Yeah, anyway, so just imagine that if you see this ancient website, right, that is still live, and then you check on their legal status. Okay, they're still operating company. So you can go in and the idea to help them to revamp their website. Okay, so that's one service that you can sell. Okay. Another thing that you can sell, if you go into their IG, you see their Facebook, and then their posts are not updated. So what you can do is you can just suggest to sell a bundle. Okay, help them to craft their IG posts. Of course, the IG posts can use on Facebook, right? Yeah, so you can sell them this content marketing services. Okay, right. So third, we want to find out who's the decision maker, who signs the check. So we want to find out who is the director, right? Who's the CEO, who's the director. So you go to their about page, LinkedIn or Akra, or whatever equivalent business website that you have. And then what are signals? What are they missing? The gaps versus the competitors, and then if they have weak creatives in their Facebook ads library, or maybe their IG not very nice. Number 5, we want to look at what kind of services do I want to pitch them. Okay? Your menu versus their gaps. So here's the master prompt, this whole job. So what you want to do, right, is to paste everything. All right. Okay. So I'll give you guys this prompt. So I'll show you. That's my clock. One moment while I get my clock ready. Okay, you go to new task. Okay, right. So before you go to new task, you can go to, so this is Claude, right? Co-work. If you see over here, this is the first icon is called chat. Chat is when we just want to chat, like for example, like ChatGPT. Okay, so co-work is where most of the things happen in co-work. So co-work, it can help you to do your automation. You can connect to skills, okay, and can connect to your connectors, whatever things that you're using right now, right? Let's say I want to connect my Gmail, then I just connect up my Gmail. Okay, just log in and you'll be inside, right? So skills are like your workflows. If you have something that is a bit complicated, multi-step workflows, you can ask Claude to help you to build a skill for you. Okay, so for example, this is my skill for developing WSQ ready curriculum. Okay, so I put in what I want, and then after that, I say help me build a skill. Yeah, because it has a skill creator over here by Anthropic to create new skills, and then it will ask you step by step what do you want. All right. So this is skills and this is connectors. So for connectors, right, I also connected to Composio. So Composio is a connector for a lot of other tools, more than 1,000 tools. If you can't find the connectors over here, right? Actually, in Claude itself, there's already a lot of tools that you can do, okay? But if you can't find your tools from here, what you can do is can connect to Composio. So the Composio can help you to connect to more tools. Yeah, understand what I mean? Get it? Yeah. So imagine if everything is now centralized within just the platform, single platform co-work itself, and you're able to connect to all the tools. So right now, what you need to do is just imagine the workflow that you want. Okay, what is something that's blocking you right now that you are spending a lot of time with that you wish that you could be able to automate, like in a certain time period, or maybe certain day that you want. Yeah, and then after that, you can build this. automation. Yeah. Always think of the back end first, and then you picture it out, the workflow, and then you tell Claude Code to build it for you. So for today, right, what I'll be showing you is we'll be building the research assistant, the prospect research assistant. And then I want to work in a project. Okay, let's click on projects over here. All right. So click on new project. Start from scratch. So this is a prospect research assistant. My prospect research assistant. Okay, so the instructions, right? Paste it over here. Oh yeah. So the thing about projects, right? You can also add files. Let's say, for example, you have your template, your design files, or your whatever kind of documentation, right? Your knowledge base, you can put everything inside a project so that your knowledge, right? The context will always be based inside your this project. Okay, inside your knowledge base. Okay, and then we paste this again. All right, so it will start to ask me questions. What are my services? So you can put whatever kind of services that you have. Something else. AI chat bots, AI voice agents, how deep? 10 minutes. Lock down in chat. Output format. Okay. So the good thing about Claude, right, is that it'll give you multiple choice. Then you just need to click, click, click. Okay. As simple as that. So before that, right, I already have a documentation. Yeah, as I said earlier, I'll show you this documentation, right? This is the workflow. Yeah. So actually you just paste everything into workflow, into the cowork. Uh, okay, you can paste this. You're my prospect research assistant. So I did all this beforehand already. Okay, I said this is my service menu. So you can change your service menu. All right. So if let's say you just want to target one thing, you just want to focus, let's say, on Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns. Okay, you don't want to do anything else, you just delete. Okay, understand? If you understand, just type yes in the chat. And over here, this is what you need to customize. What is the type of business? Yeah, actually they ask you for Google Maps URL, but then no, we just want to target the type of business. Okay, target business. Maybe I put tuition centers. Okay, tuition centers in Singapore. Then do this in 5 layers. First layer. Okay, second layer. Find their website. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, check the ads library, decision maker, and their signals. Final output. So just copy and paste everything from here. Okay. Okay, I'll give you the workflow. All right. So you need to customize the workflow to the instructions that you want. So the prompt is there. Just customize your prompt. If you are targeting Malaysia, you put Malaysia. Targeting Singapore, I put Singapore. You want to target both country or target US, also can. So once I have customized my prompt, okay, I'm back at Claude. Okay, this prompt is better. So this menu, I only want to do this. Okay, I only want to do this. AI voice callers, target tuition centers in Singapore, for example. Okay. Okay, let me see what else. Okay, good to go. Yep. If you all have Claude, right, you can try as well right now.
Shit, I hit my usage plan.
Sorry?
Shit, I hit my usage plan.
Oh, you hit your usage, I just upgraded to Max.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I just use Opus like 3 prompts and that's it.
Oh,
What the
you
hell?
should be using Sonnet. If you're on the $20, you should be using Sonnet.
I copy you, ma, bro.
Because I'm on a Max plan, I can't finish it. Max plan is times 5. Actually, it's very useful if you're building like automations. Yeah. So if you all have been like following like OpenClaw, Hermes agent, and then what's the difference between OpenClaw and also Claude Cowork? Is that for Claude Cowork, everything is on your computer. So in order for your automations to run, right, your scheduled task to run, you'll need to turn on your computer lah. But for your OpenClaw, it can be on your virtual server. So virtual server, that means you can be anywhere. Yeah. Upgrading now, best. Yeah, you wouldn't regret lah. Yeah. But too bad right now you cannot use Claude for OpenClaw. Yeah. Otherwise, you will see I'll be spamming already OpenClaw. Yeah, and just now my OpenClaw just did something funny, right? It was just engaging with everyone else in the group chat. Okay, let me see.
Which group chat do you have your OpenClaw in?
It was not supposed to be in group chat. It was just supposed to be in my individual chats. You see, I don't know why it was just chatting. Yeah, it went wild.
Okay, next time bring it in the partnership group as well. Let me bully.
Do something for you,
I'm gonna bully.
Yeah. So anyway, I broke my OpenClaw just now. I don't know what happened. So the thing about OpenClaw is it is like a hobbies project. AI enthusiasts, if you are very strong in AI and you understand all the techie concepts, right? You're like a nerd like me, then you use OpenClaw lah. If not, you can just stick to Claude Cowork, okay? Don't need anything else. Just stick to Claude, you'll be fine, right? Don't need to FOMO like everyone else, like me. Yeah. Okay. So let's see, running the full 5-layer on 3 prospects back to back. Okay, let me see. Now Tutor John verifying. That ends on Facebook library. Okay, so when it
Okay,
says
Brandon, I saw you send the MD file in the chat, and then what do you do with the MD file? You just copy and paste everything inside, is it?
so there's a master prompt right below, so you just copy and paste everything below. Okay, but then you need to tweak your service. What is your service? And also tweak your businesses. What is the business that you want to target?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I see asking me some questions already.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I did on my end is the file that you give, prospect research workflow, I just download it, I just dump it in, and then I just say follow this MD.
Okay. Yeah, because you put it blank, the target business is blank, right? So you will start asking you questions, and that works as well.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. Anyone else in the chat got any questions? Yeah, feel free to
Yeah.
ask. Okay.
Feel free to ask.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself. Ask. Make sure you come to these sessions right on your laptop lah, not on your phone while eating or while
Yeah.
driving lah. That's the way to get the most out of this session, right? So as Coach Brandon is doing, then we'll follow, also, right? So
Yeah. Because this is the industry standard for AI lah. If you want to learn, you learn from the best tool. Okay. All right. So it says that it's hitting dead ends on Facebook Ads Library. Okay, site timed out. Exact Google Map review count need direct map access. Okay, so it does not have direct map access. So what I'll do, right, is I'll give it direct map access. You can go, you can use my browser to hit the Facebook Ads Library. And also use Composio for Google Maps. I think let me check if it's hooked up. Composio. So I want to show you Composio, right? What is Composio all about? Okay. So the Composio is like the mother of all tools. Right? Like the mother of all tools. So you're able to connect to more apps. More apps. Yeah, you see, it's not even loading, it's too fast. But there's so many apps there. Okay. I think a few thousand apps there. Okay. So whatever that you can't find in Claude, right? You can't connect in Claude, you connect over here. Google Maps. Okay. So we already have Google Maps already hooked up. Okay. Maybe what I want to do is just refresh the connection again. Because sometimes all this connection, right, will expire. So that's the thing. When I want to maintain the connection between my tools and also Composio, I'll just do that. Yeah. Just reconnect, refresh. Okay. Anyway. So whatever use case that you have, right, you want to automate stuff, it's already there. Okay. You don't need N8N because N8N, right, you still got to get the webhook lah, whatever. Yeah. Kingsley, you can try this for your workflow automation next time. So you want to scrape, you can scrape. And then you want to see what does this tool do, right? Okay, you can crawl, website, content extraction, yeah, so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, let me go back to my Claude. Claude. Okay, so what I said, right, is you can use my browser, or maybe I share my screen better, my whole screen, so that you'll see that the browser is moving later on. Okay, now I'm showing side by side. You guys can see, right?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to connect Composio first.
Yeah. Okay, so Composio, right, to connect to your, it's very easy. You just go to home. You go down over here, Claude Cowork. Right, you see this install button, Claude Cowork. If it's Claude Code, then you use here, this button, okay? If it's for your open Claude, you install here. Yeah, you click here. So for Claude Cowork, right, because it is not a native connector, right, as in you can't find it there. So what we want to do, right, is we want to go to settings. Okay. Let me just teach you guys how to connect to Composio first, yeah? Okay, so you go to connectors, all right? And then you go down, all the way down, custom connector. So in this custom connector, right, you copy this URL, connect.composio.dev/MCP, okay, /MCP. You don't need to worry what MCP is. Basically, it's just like your API. And then you can call this Composio. And then you just connect, right? And then it will ask you to authorize. Because I already connected, so I'm not going to connect here. Yeah. But you can try. Okay. So if I want to use my Claude in my Chrome, right? I go to extensions, manage extensions, and then I search for Claude and I install the Claude Chrome extension. Yeah, you install this extension. So this is useful when you want to browsing something, right? And then you want to talk to Claude. Okay, so Claude will be at your side, and then it can be able to look at your whatever that you're looking at right now. Okay, Kingsley, your Claude is browsing ads already. Very good. Yeah. So this is how it works. Okay. So for the rest of you, let me show you. Okay, so I told Claude, okay, you can use my browser to hit on the Facebook Ads library and use Composio for Google Maps. It's already connected. What else? What else you say cannot do? Anything you say cannot do, then you tell him, use my browser. Okay? Yeah. Because sometimes, right, all these AI, they got so much tools that they don't know how to use. Then they say, oh, hitting dead ends, and then need direct maps access, and give you all these things. Yeah. But they forgot that they can use our browser. So I say you can use my browser to hit the Facebook Ads library and also use Composio for Google Maps. It's already connected. Steve, you can't see the Cowork in your desktop version.
Oh, you don't can know. Why?
Mm,
Or maybe can I share my screen?
yeah.
Okay.
Right, stop share.
Uh,
Which plan are you on?
Pro, okay, right. This
Mm,
one. Yeah. Where is it?
Oh, this is yeah. The second one, the second button.
This one.
No, the small icon, right? You see the chat icon? Ah, virtual machine not available. Cloud workspace requires a virtual. Oh, you're using Windows.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you restart. Click on restart
Oh.
now.
Oh.
Yeah, so you restart your computer. Oops, you're gone.
Right.
So funny. I thought it's just restarting the. I thought it's just restarting the software Claude itself. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay. Yeah, because Claude it just works automatically on a Mac. Yeah, so if you're not using a Mac and using Windows, right, then you need to do some stuff lah, some changes. There's some adaptations I need to do. Okay. So what basically it does is actually using a virtual machine on your Windows instead. Okay. So while we were talking, right, Cloud was actually looking at the ads library. Okay. So this is the automation part. I think they already done everything else. Okay, so this is verified. Here's the update output with the live data from Google Maps and Meta Ads Library. Okay, in COP when they tell you this one cannot be found. Okay, status is active. Why is it active? Because they're hiring. So these are some of the signals. They're hiring via My Careers Future. Okay, what else do we have? The data. Okay, we have, they are all from Tampines. Interesting. And then one branch, two branch. Google rating 4.95. Wow, 4.8. Google reviews, number of Google reviews. Okay. Meta ads. All right. 0. Website. IG. Okay. LinkedIn company. Yes. This one not found. This one is the staff. Lim Jingwen. So we can only find the staff who is Lim Jingwen. But then we know the owner is called John. Right? Since the business name is called Tutor John. Phone contact. Wow, you got 3 lines over here, 2 lines, 2 mobile lines, 1 per branch. Decision maker, not public, not public. John is the founder, plus Lim Jingwen as the staff. Okay, market context. There are 2,300 active tuition ads. So when there are 2,300 active tuition ads running at this point of time, right? What you can do is you can ask Claude to help you to see the ads that are in local, okay? Or maybe ads that are not doing so well. And then when you want to propose to help them to improve in their ads. Okay. Or we could look for people who are already spending a lot of money on ads. And how do we know if they are spending a lot of money? If you see that the ads, right, has been running for quite some time, you see, like this ad, right, is active and is running since 2023. Okay. That means this ad is profitable, right? That means this ad is profitable. Okay. That's how you want to you can learn that. Okay.
Brandon, is this how you got the context for your WSQ?
Yeah, for my
Uh,
WSQ, right? So I show you what I did. That one is interesting. So what I basically do, right, is I go to my SkillsFuture. I show you a new task. Actually, I don't even need to use a new task. I just go here. I type AI. So there are 1,722 AI courses. Okay. So I say you are in the SkillsFuture courses portal. I am an AI instructor and I would like to teach in the WSQ schools. I want you to click on each course from an unique training provider related to AI, and you can grab the contact details from the course page at the bottom. Once you have the data, collate them into a Google Sheet. Okay, so whenever you are doing prompts, right, first you must give the context what you are trying to do. Okay. Yeah, and then after that, you go step by step. What is your workflow? What would you like the AI to do? Yeah, you can give it multiple steps. It's okay. You want to put step 1, step 2, step 3 is okay as well. And after that, lastly is where do you want the data to be? Okay, and what data do you want? Okay, I want to have the name of the contact person, if any. Because sometimes they won't put the contact person, the phone number and email address, and also give me the course title and the course ID. Only find me those courses that has upcoming dates. Okay, so over here we have 1,700 plus, right? But then not all are active courses. Okay, so once you click on with upcoming dates, now it reduces to 500. So I'll say act without asking. So this is Claude taking action without your permission, right? So that means you don't have to say okay, agree on every step, right? But then it all depends on you. This is a dangerous action because it might do something funny, like go to your iBanking and transfer money to me. Yeah, hopefully, yeah. No, just kidding. Okay, but if you just want to let it run, right? Like for Kingsley and me, you just just let you run, then you just act without asking. So that's what we usually do, because we have been using AI for quite some time. So that's why we know what to do.
Brandon, can I ask a question? Can I ask it to ask permission first? And after that, let's say it asked it 2, 3, 4 times. I confirm it is doing well. Then I say ask without permission. After I just see how you're doing it. So I don't go away from computer. 3 hours later, I come, everything is wrong. That is my fear.
Yeah. So for this, right, I think once you allow the permission, you'll just go on until it hits another roadblock. Then it will ask you for permission again. Yeah. So that means it will not go to every page and ask you every time.
Oh, okay. So it remembers my preferences and it will just act on it.
Yes, that's right.
And then after that, can I just say, okay, it is doing well. From now on, you don't need to ask me. Do we have an option like this, or we need to
No.
keep on answering?
You need to keep on these permissions, unless what you need to do is just cross and then just change a new chat.
Oh, okay.
Change a new chat, and then you say you can put in the whole context again because you won't remember what it did earlier on.
Okay, can.
Yeah. So you just copy and paste the whole context and then put in the new chat window. You say continue. But this time around, you over here, you say add without asking. Okay, I'll just show you over here how this act without us before acting. Yeah, so you say, okay, there's an approach. So before you do anything, they will always give you the approach. Okay, what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, browse. For each unit, click on one or related course and extract details from the course page. Then you collect the course title, course ID, along with contact details and collate into a Google Sheet. If you need to make any plan, you just click make changes. Otherwise, you click on approve plan. So for this Claude, right, it's only looking at this website. Okay, it's only looking at this website. For example, if you have multiple websites, you want to have a comparison. Let's say, for example, you want to compare your Amazon, compare your Shopee. You want to buy things, then you want to compare your Lazada. You can open 3 tabs together and then you put them into a group. So how do you put them in the group over here? So this is considered one group. You see this colored icon, right? Folder tab. So it's considered one group. And then you can open another tab and then you just drag and drop the tab inside. So this tab will be inside the group. Okay.
What does the group do again?
So the group, right, you can give it context. Say that I've opened this few windows inside this group. And then it can help you to do things. Let's say, for example, help me to simultaneously find the best deals on Shopee, Lazada, and some other Amazon. For example, you have 3 websites that are open. So you say, I have 3 websites that are open in this group.
Oh, I see that this is Comet, right? This is not Google Chrome, right?
Okay, so I'm using both Comet and also Google, sorry, and also Claude. Yeah, I'm not using Chrome. But then this is actually a spin-off of Chromium.
Okay. So you're basically
Yeah.
using the Claude Chrome plugin,
Yes.
which is available on Google Chrome also.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the only difference with Comet is you can have folders and the folders can have contacts of each other. Is that correct?
Okay, so for the folders, right, you can do it in Chrome as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just that because right now I have this plugin. Yeah. I have the Claude plugin, right? So it looks the same. Just that for Comet, right, I also have another Comet assistant. So sometimes I'll use Comet because I think Comet is faster than Claude. Yeah. And also it has chat history. But for Claude, right, I don't know why they don't have the chat history here. So it refreshes itself every time. Yeah. Okay. So you guys can see, right? So I just let you run. But if you're on the pro plan, right, then this one will you will hit your limit very fast. You're on the pro plan. Yeah. And also don't use Opus when you're doing something like as simple as this. I just use Sonnet will do.
And then how long will it take to go through all 500 and come back with a Google Sheet of leads? Because now I don't see the Google Sheet, right?
No. Yeah. It's storing in the memory. There's no Google
so
Sheet.
after you finish all 500 only you show you.
Yeah. But I won't show you for 500 lah. It's just a quick demo that I want to show. So you can use your Claude inside your browser as well. So that's what it can do for you. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so we were at here. Okay, so what we were doing is we were doing this earlier on. Okay, so they give us 3 hot leads, right? Top signal, sole proprietor. Also, the teacher, they cannot answer calls during class. WhatsApp, 2 phone lines, fully manual booking funnel. Okay, pitch angle. You're teaching during peak inquiry hours. An AI voice agent picks up, qualifies the level subject, and books the trial in your calendar. No missed parents calls during class. Code open. Saw 133 5-star Google reviews and 0 ads running. You're clearly getting organic demand through WhatsApp and 2 mobile lines. How many inquiry calls ring when you're in class? So you see, even the message is already built for you. Okay, you just copy and paste. All right. I built AI voice agents for tuition centers that pick up, qualify, and book trials. Worth 10 minutes. Yeah. How many of you think this is good enough to send?
Yeah, looks good. Are you sending it through email, phone number?
Yeah. So that's the next thing you can do, right? You can either WhatsApp them, or you can email, or you can DM. So totally up to you. So for this instance, we'll be showing just emails. Yeah, because since I want to build this, the next step, which is building emails. All right. Okay. So this one is second, Tutor John, independent 2-branch tuition center, Tampines and Choa Chu Kang, one-to-one and small group, plus a tutor matching marketplace. So top signals, why this is good for us is that they have 2 separate lines, 1 per branch, no central switchboard. Matching service, hiring, that means they are scaling. Calls will only grow. Yeah, that's why they are busy, so they're hiring. So pitch angle, AI voice caller as a shared front desk across both branches, plus matching intake triage. Okay, because they are tuition matching marketplace. So this will be useful for them. Hi, John. Tutor John runs 2 branches and a matching service of 2 mobile lines. The matching site especially floods the phone. I built AI voice agents that handle intake and route callers to the right branch 24/7. Quick chat. Yeah. Okay. And third, Odyssey Learning Center. I'm only showing 3 because of time constraints, right? Otherwise, you can do 10, you can do 50, do 100. But for the first run, right, I'll usually start small because I want to see what is the quality of the leads that they give me. And then I'll tweak later. If let's say this signal is not strong enough for me, I'll ask them some more questions. Ask them more questions. Okay. Steve, sorry, just I asked you to restart your computer and now you're back. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Ah,
Thank you, thank
now you
you.
can see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so pitch angle, AI voice caller, yeah, unifying the 3 lines with smart routing. Notice Odyssey listed 3 separate numbers for tuition, student care, and office. Parents calling during school hours often bounce between them. I built AI voice agents that answer on the first ring, route correctly, and book trials. Open to a 10-minute chat. Okay, the end's cleared. Okay, well, these are the sources. All right. Okay, so I say next. Great job. Next, I want you to build an automated email system that sends email on day, wait, typing here, on day 1 day 3 and day 5. Oh, okay, never mind. Let me look at my slides that I have the other day. So those people who miss my hang on there. Speaker system. So now I'm actually combining. I'm starting with the research assistant first, and then after that, I ask Claude to build me the cold email machine, right? So let me get actually over here, I touch on how to get leads for free, but because right now we have just 5 layers, so this 5 layers is much more stronger. Of course, sometimes you still get bounce emails, but then there's just when you are doing cold email, it will happen now. Just that right now the coincidence is lower. Okay. Right. So let me see. Okay. So what I do is I send over this, copy and paste it over. Email system day 7 and day 14. Follow the screenshot. Yeah. The emails for me now. Okay. So basically it's doing is we are crafting the emails for day 1, day 3, day 7, and day 14. As if for day 1, it's just a very short, 1 question, no pitch, which just now I believe all this can be for the day 1. Okay, I think this is also very good. Okay, this is very good as well. Okay, so now it's building. It's crafting. Okay. So one more thing, right? If you're inside this project, okay, you can customize your instructions. Give Claude instructions for working in this folder. Do not use M dashes and humanize the content. I don't like it when they put a lot of M dashes, right? Long dash. Okay, so let's see. Did my earlier note reach you? Okay. Sharing one example. So your real client. Breakup email. Okay, I like this. Breakup email. Closing the loop. Okay. Either I'll stop reaching out. If the time is not right, it's totally fine. If whatever it is, reply with 1 word and I'll pick it up back up. Okay. So this one is for prospect 2. On a busy evening, how many parent inquiries calls and actually get picked up versus ring out? Maybe I don't want to use ring out because we don't use this context in Singapore. Localize this because in Singapore, we don't say ring out. So before that, right, I've actually connected my Gmail as well so that I can be able to send emails from my Gmail. And because I'm not sending a lot of emails, so I use Gmail. Unless you have other emails, you have your corporate emails, right? Then you can hook it up from here. Answered. How many do you miss? Okay. Yes. So just now, right, it was saying before you automate, one clear studies. Okay, if you have 0 clients here, you can replace day 7 if you demo. Yeah. So let me copy and answer. Okay. Wait. Replace with demo offer. Okay. Brandon 90808. If you have your calendar link, you can put your calendar link, Calendly link here. Now, just give me a minute, right? I'll be back in.
Awesome. How many of you guys are able to follow step by step so far? Type in 1 in the chat.
I came late. I came late. I do an interview. I
Who
come
else?
in
Who
in the
else?
middle,
Can
but I
Nisa
want to
follow?
understand the process.
What about
Wanted to
Nisa? What
discover
about
more.
Steve, Elaine, Ellen, Mitch, Estelle, Alira, Sulin, Jaina, Ernie, Huda, Mandy? How many of you guys are able to follow so far?
If you guys getting value, type yes in the chat. If you manage to follow, write follow in the chat.
Okay, so Sulin says no. Hey, Mandy says value. Mitch says trying. Steve says got the concept. Alira says
Yeah.
value.
No, the concept is quite clear. Guys, I want to ask, since many of the coaches are here, this session is quite nice. First time I'm attending Brandon's session, I keep on missing it. I say, I want to, and then there is a sales call. I'm like, no! The customers all cannot make it daytime. They book daytime. Then they say, can we do 8 p.m.? I'm like, okay. But
Yeah,
anyways,
because this will be very useful for you.
I can use this on LinkedIn to add connections and craft the conversation also, right? Based on the Apollo
Yes.
script.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that is what I would love to try. So I will be watching this and implementing them over the weekend. And now I got one guy who is actually specialized in the AIs, setting up things, and he's already got a cloud certification. I think Cloud A2 certification they do. He's getting the second one now, the for workplace. I just do an interview with him before this. Oh, so what are the things you know? Well, you know, it is a very new system. He's also telling. I'm also discovering, but we bounce some ideas. Hopefully, with him, I will be able to set up those.
Yeah. Okay. So for Claude, for LinkedIn, right? There's a few ways that you can set it up. So one is you can just let your browser work on its own. I think that's the most basic. It'll be slower, but then at least it is natural. It doesn't look like a bot is following you. It's like trying to do things for you on your LinkedIn. Otherwise, you'll be banned from LinkedIn.
Yeah, I will do it like a daily 1 hour, let it do this thing. Daily 2 hours, do Facebook. We use Apollo method to utilize the cloud.
Yeah, yeah. So you just go to your Claude Cowork and say, okay, help me to find this profile. Yeah, but then you need to have more verifications. Yeah, like what is the type of industry you're looking at? And then what is the work no the title that you want? Yeah, maybe you want to target like sales directors or marketing directors or marketing managers in what kind of industry, and then what is the setup like a company, how big is the headcount, that kind of thing. So if you be as detailed as possible, right, then Claude is able to go to LinkedIn and help you to find. It's best, even best if you have the sales navigator. If you don't have
I
navigator,
find investing in it compared to ads. Imagine every day I reach out to 20 people. I mean, 5 messages at least. That costs way less than the lead. Sales Navigator, cloud, everything combined. Even buying a desktop just for it to set on the site.
oh yes, yes, for sure. You can, and then it can just let you run for you, just run 24/7. You just set
Voila,
up the
24/7 sure ban one. Sure ban.
yeah, theoretically, yeah, but then let's say it runs 24/7, but maybe every 3 to 4 hours, then it moves. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not saying
So
that.
what I'm planning is do this for 2 hours, then it's finished, right? Then I set up the Facebook, to Facebook for 2 hours. Then maybe I get the IPv4 to make sure IP change. Then a second LinkedIn profile, do this for 2 hours, do this for 2 hours. So daily 8 hours, I have a lead generator that will generate as much leads as a 3-4K ad campaign, man.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
stop pay itself in 15 days.
For sure, I'm sure you can do that, but then we try not to be so aggressive. Like you say, not 24/7, but then we try to do, probably we do a 30 minutes first for first day. And then
Yeah.
after that, we slowly add more and
Do
more
you guys
people.
have any sequences like Apollo method? Like I cannot ask, "Hi, nice to meet you. What do you do?" Or I cannot ask, "Hi, nice to meet you. How long you been in the property?" The guy will say, "Read my profile in LinkedIn." How we approach? Do you guys have any templates or steps to approach on LinkedIn?
There is a Apollo method, right? The document.
Yeah, I know, but it is covering very good for Facebook. In LinkedIn, it is not that effective. Like
Oh
Facebook, very
yeah,
effective.
because LinkedIn, you already
I
know what
know
they
your
do, right?
profile. I can see your history. Your CV is in front of me. I cannot ask what do you do. I cannot ask how long you've been in property. I cannot ask how long you've been doing or what you specialize in. The fella is sharing things. Or maybe it can say that, hey, I really see your this article. Check the last 3 things he post. You find anything interesting, comment about it with them and say what you think about this topic. Maybe we start from there. Can it do like this kind of thinking?
You need to give instructions. Yeah, you can
No,
say,
no.
help me to
As
look
long
at
as the instructions are correct, is it feasible within the capability to
for sure.
analyze, oh, this guy read his last 3 articles and say something you like about it and do an introduction, something like that.
Sure, because right now it's able to automate your browser, so it's able to go to your LinkedIn and then click on their profile and just look through whatever you want them to look through. So if you're giving
Mhm.
specific instructions, you will just follow your instructions correct accordingly.
I think first day, 2 hours, I will sit in front of it, approve every step so it doesn't send some stupid messages. I like, then it quotes the part, I like this because of this, etc. You read, you know that this is not human written. I
Yeah, so
just
you
go
need to
search.
be at the computer by the side. Yeah.
But that's okay. I have already two, like one older laptop sitting there. I
Mm.
can always use it for this and I can see what is it doing. Ah, okay, good. Now I can move forward.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, for sure,
Thanks,
for
Atman.
sure.
Okay, I leave the space to others.
Okay, all right. So maybe later if I have time, I'll do a quick demo on how to add people on LinkedIn using the Apollo method.
That
Yeah.
will be
So
amazing.
so there's Apollo method version 2 for you, which is a AI Apollo method. Yeah. That will be cool. Okay. I'll just do off my demo first. Okay. Nisa, you said that you got your Excel file generated, right? From Cowork, is it? Can I see? Maybe you want to share your screen? Yeah, so this is the Excel file. Okay. if you fail to download files. Oh, that's strange. Can you use the desktop application instead? Do you download the app? Okay, results generation. Below the chat, result generation. Yeah. I think it can maximize everything. Okay, then the icon, right? On the top right, there's this file icon. Open the sidebar. Not this one, below. Top right. Beside the arrow, yeah, this one. Open sidebar. Yes, yes. Wait, cannot open. Artifacts. You click. Okay, there you go. So you can you download? Okay, so now it's opening in Excel. Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened, but sometimes there's this workaround. Yeah. So this is what Claude built for you. Nice. Such a colorful spreadsheet. It'll take me a lot of time to build this. Okay. Service level A, B, and C. I think your prompt is a bit different from me, but then as long as it works, yeah, and I think this is very good as well. What is the prompt that you use? Yeah, I can't hear you, Lisa. Okay. I can't hear anything. Is the wire connected? Or the audio, is it connected? Maybe the microphone, you selected another microphone. You go to your audio settings, right? And then you can choose the right microphone. Yeah. But sometimes if we change to a external microphone, right, then you need to select the right setup. Otherwise, it will be on your system. That's why you cannot hear. You can't hear anything. No, nothing at all. I'm so sorry. Okay, never mind. Let me see. Okay. Focus on your outreach, on low activity. Product size potential. Okay. So what was the output that you wanted, and you tell them that you want to put in the Excel sheet? Okay, I'm seeing. Yeah, scrolling down. I still can't hear anything. Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Nisa. Okay, let me get back to the. Okay, that's all. So your spreadsheet, right? So you say sort in A, B, and C level. Give me the PIC name, which is the person in charge, email, mobile number as well. Very good. Excellent. So you guys can see here, right? So this what Nisa actually improvised and added more stuff. So you can customize the prompts to whatever that you want in your output that you want. Okay. So I think this is very good because it gives you like the visual of level A, which is urgent, and level B and level C. Yeah. And it also give you a legend over there. So you know what it means. Excellent. Okay. So let me go back to finish this. Yeah. So what I want to show you, right, is the automation part. Yeah. Okay. So for automations, Gmail drafts, we are already connected to Gmail. So let's tell it. We are already connected to Gmail. And we can use the shared Duke task to build the automation workflow. So it's asking me to build on N8N, right? But then I just want to build everything on Claude Cowork, on Claude Cowork instead. So sometimes your AI might not be right. So you need to redirect them. Okay. So you'll be thinking, you'll be planning the workflow, and then after that, right, it will give us the scheduled tasks and the plan. Yeah. Okay. So this the emails with the. So you can put in your Calendly link or cal.com. If you're happy with the emails content, you can just continue. Right. The automation plan. Stage all 12 Gmails as Gmail drafts so you can eyeball them and tweak. You approve, I'll send the 3-day one emails via email. Okay. So every time, right, they'll send us the draft first. So this workflow, you send us the draft and then we approve. Okay. Right. Like send us the draft, we approve. Right. So these are scheduled tasks. Right. Okay. So we already built this. Say okay. Green lights. So Claude will build your automation workflow, and then you will see it at the left side, upper left over here under the scheduled. It'll tell you once it's done, and then you can go in to confirm and run it.
What's in your daily AI news briefing?
Wow, I show you. This is okay. You have sharp eye. This is another workflow that I built.
Yeah, show us how does the workflow look like in in Power.
Okay, so it began over here in this chat. So that one is my scheduled task. So I don't touch my scheduled task. I just touch the chat in the co-work. Okay. So that's what I said. I'm an AI instructor teaching generative AI and agentic AI. Keep me up to date every day at 7 a.m. Yeah, for latest news updates. So here's the scope. LLMs, agents, generative AI, vibe coding, AI marketing tools, OpenClaw, Hermes agent, and other agentic agents. Audio filter, product launches only. So this was previously what I wanted. And then after that, I asked it to give me more. Yeah. So where was it? Oh, yeah, I'm doing this. Is it? Okay. Wait, let me show you, just show you. Huh? Ilera, what you mean Netflix? Did I see no Netflix or am I wrong? What you mean Netflix? So actually, right, I have asked it to help me build a landing page, which is for people to subscribe to my emails. And also it will send me the, wait, I see what is it. I thought I saw the message in your task workflow. Hey, give me a minute. Just let me find. Where is it? So are you guys learning things right now? Okay. Yeah, you need to play with it. Then you will know, you will understand. Otherwise, when just by looking at it, right, you wouldn't understand. Yeah. But then right now, I want you all to question yourself, what are the kind of things that I want to build? Okay. So for example, I built this AI instructor brief. I asked it to help me build a newsletter landing page. So that right now you can enter your email address, everything. Yeah. And then it will send every Monday at 7 a.m. Okay. So what it does, it sends 3 to 5 major stories with your context. And then I'll show you here.
So it's run. So like the back end is on your laptop lah. Is it, Brandon? Like
Yeah, the pen is on my
like
laptop.
like if your laptop ran out of power and dies, then there'll be no email at 7 a.m. lah. Is it?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have built this on a N8N. Okay, enough. Okay, good night. I would have I would have built this on N8N, but then because this is just for me to do a demo on what Cowork can do. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm building over here. Let me see.
Yeah, I want to be like Lucas, vibe code everything and fire my funnel guy.
Yeah, why not? But code everything. So right now I don't have to use MailChimp. Okay, I want to show you how the format looks like. Let me just do a fire. Okay, let's do a run now. So when I hit a run now, it's currently running. I want to show you the content. It's damn cool, damn solid. Yeah. So later you'll send me an email. Okay, let me get back just now. Okay, so I think my computer is getting slow. I don't know why. All right. So just now we're building this halfway. Right. So it's creating the scheduled task for me. So I just need to click on schedule.
Actually, this was what Plot Code could do maybe 1 month, 2 months back. So now, like, Plot Code can do it already and you can see it
Yes, yes, yes.
visually.
So you have like visually, right? So it's easy for people who are non-coders. Because I'm sure a lot of us over here, they don't even know what the heck is Cloud Code. So this is for non-coders.
Yeah,
And
this
people,
latest version looks much, much, much more usable than the version we had 1, 2 months back.
yeah, yeah. So you just need to click. Everything just need to click, click, click. It's very simple for you to do it. Yeah, and it's very visual. And you can even see if it's running or not. Yeah, you don't have to type any code or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So you just go here on your schedules. Yeah. There. Okay. And then over here, right? These are on the, oh, I think my network is unstable. Okay. So on the left-hand side, right? Schedule. So this will be the tasks that are scheduled. Okay. Okay. So if I want to build this even further, right? I would say, okay, great. Since we have already built the email sequence and also the research assistant. Yeah, Lara. So credits, right? Every day, I think every 5 hours, they'll do a reset. And also there's a weekly limit as well. So they'll tell you, okay, you hit your limit, and then you need to wait until when, yeah, when your credits will reset. Oh, okay. Now another thing is we can build a skill, right? So because we already have our workflow, right? So initially our research assistant built this workflow for us. We can say, can we build the research assistant workflow into a skill that we can use? Let me plug in my power. If you all have any questions, feel free to ask, yeah? Feel free to unmute yourself as well. Yeah. Okay, so I want
Hi,
to build.
Brandon.
Hey, hi,
Hey,
hi, Lucas.
hi, nice. Good knowing you. Hey, are you on the pro plan or the $20 plan? That means
Um,
your credit use up quite fast if you do daily news using, is it?
yeah, so I'm on the max plan right now.
Wow, okay. I also thinking of going max plan already,
No choice, if you want to build like all these workflows, right, then you need the max plan. And
Yeah,
also,
I
Oh,
see. Okay.
Lucas, I just upgraded to Max on this call.
Really? Oh,
Yes, sir.
it get quite addictive when you start using it. Then you realize the credit that is not enough. Yeah, I think Max will just help you with so much things. You see.
yeah, because
Okay, cool.
for max, right, it's actually just nice. Yeah, it's enough.
Do you have a, I mean, as a backend right now? I mean, so I saw that you actually run a landing page just now. Do you have
Ah,
a backend system linked up to it?
everything is linked up via Claude.
Yeah, cloud. But then all the database, all these go to where?
Google
Your
Sheet.
Mailchimp, Google Sheet.
So I'm just
Okay.
doing a demo to see if I can do without any paid tools and everything within just the Claude Cowork itself. So
Okay, that's nice. Okay.
Claude, right, managed to build me the landing page, and then the back end, right, it managed to help me to build a script on Google. So this script, right, will fire a welcome email.
Using free Gmail account. Is that what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
using a Gmail account.
wow,
Yeah, so I
damn.
don't know what
Okay.
it was doing at the back end, so it was spending time pasting some codes. So for the automation part, right? So actually, which I could just use resend and also use some simple forms or any end to fire. But then I just want to see what it can do. So it just did the whole thing for me.
Awesome. Do you try the code, the cloud code? I recently just tried it to link it to GHL. I think it's super awesome, man.
Cloud code with?
GHL,
Oh, okay.
the
Cloud
CRM.
with DHL.
Yeah, so
It's,
I've tried. Yeah, so I've tried a cloud code with GHL maybe 2-3 months back already, and I think I got until the pipeline where I can identify my leads has been sitting in this pipeline stage for 3 days already, and I can ask it, hey, draft an email to help me to follow up with this guy before it goes cold. But I think I was stuck at like building automations, like like after you build a funnel, then you want to connect it to a certain form, then send email out, and send WhatsApp messages out. I have some friends in my other school community that I just briefly joined that managed to do it. But then now also GHL got its own vibe coding tool. So yeah, I think have you tried the GHL vibe coding tool, Lucas or Brandon?
yeah, AI Studio, it works wonders, man. I tell you, it's super awesome right now. And I almost built a website every one day. I can build one website already.
Oh, nice. What about the automations and like, doing until until you actually get the, for example, emails or WhatsApp messages? Can they do it now?
Yeah, you can link to, you can build a form, a pop-up form, then also link back to the CRM backend. Then you just automation, you just need to link to external checking form. That's it. Can be done.
With tagging, with like a tag to the lead, and all those can just write code.
Can buy code.
Oh,
And
nice.
everything, all the whole plan in Cloud, you can come up with the whole plan. You just tell Cloud that you want to build something, everything all done on GHL. It will give you all the super detailed stats on what needs to be done on GHL. Exactly. You can go like really exactly on what needs to be done. What is the custom value? What is the tag? What's the trigger? Everything. You just need to
Nice.
give the
Because
right prompt.
nice. Because I have like a 20-page SOP for my AI caller. I have like 20 pages, man. It's like a lot of steps. So
You just
yeah, I'm
I
trying
feel that
to simplify it.
you can just keep everything to Cloud, then Cloud will have a handle certain things. Then you ask the correct form of what need to be done and what they can do for you. Then they just troubleshoot from there.
Okay, worth trying. Yeah, thanks, Lucas. Yeah, over. Back to you, Brandon.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Okay, so I'm asking Claude, right, to build me this research assistant skill. I don't want to bundle up the whole workflow because I want to s- to use different kind of skills. Like right now, I want to build this research assistant skill. Yeah, and then later, right, I would use this skill, and then I said to put this inside the scheduled task. Okay, so doing my next scheduled task that I want to do is actually to do the daily research for me. So once the skill is configured, right, it will use this research assistant skill and then run on a scheduled task. Yeah. So the thing about co-work is sometimes it can be a bit slow, but then it's working behind in the background. Yeah. And if you just want to do some simple chat, right, you don't need to do any kind of automation. You don't need to do any kind of stuff in your folders or on the computer or on your browser. You can just simply just go to chat. Okay, you don't need to use co-work, right? Because co-work is like overkill if you just want to have a simple question and answer. All right, just a simple FAQ, just use the chat function will do. Okay. So we'll just let it run. And then right now, I want to show you guys something else. Actually, every week, right now, there's a lot of new stuff, a lot of new things happening. Yeah. Okay, let me show you my email. So just now we were talking about the AI Digest, right? AI News Digest. So can you all see?
Yep.
So this is AI News Digest that will fire off from Claude. Yeah. Codex cannot drive your computer. Claude is drawing slides. Okay. OpenAI turns Codex into a full computer use agent. And then there's references here as well if you want to read more. Anthropic ships Claude Opus 4.7. Okay, so Opus 4.7 is new. Just came out. Yeah. And then
But then do you see a difference between Opus and Sonnet? I mean, do you all run on Opus right now?
I'm running on Opus because I have the Max plan.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah,
It's a simple reason. It's just this simple reason. You ask me whether it's better or not, I don't know, because right now I just put Opus because it's not hitting my limits. Until it hits my limits, then probably I'll just change to Sonnet Max.
Yeah. I still use it for that. Right? When I use Opus, it's like wow, within after a few coding, then I cannot hit Max already.
Yeah.
But the part I don't like about Opus is the responses are actually super, super long. So it's kind of like ChatGPT where it gives you like a super long response, but you know that it actually doesn't need to be that long. So yeah, I think it depends on your preference lah.
I think on the setting you can actually program it in a way tell them that whatever output you want to be will be simple or what. Yeah, I think it's all about the prompt that you give. So in the setting, I think there's about me portion that you can set all these parameters. Yeah.
Yeah, in the about me. Okay. So this looks like a damn legit AI News Digest that I have. Yeah, that I see from some of the influencers, right? They send this kind of AI News Digest. So I think it's pretty legit, if you ask me. New tools, Spotlight, Cloud Design. So it managed to capture all the new stuff. Canva AI. Yeah, Canva has a new AI function. Google Flow Music. Oh, talking about music, right? If you're into music generation, there's a Minimax. So Minimax, right? They came out with Minimax 2.6. Minimax is from China. Minimax. Yeah. So this 2.6 is they just released. And right now you can build for free. Okay, I think just another one more days. You can build up to 500 songs for free. So I just built lah. Quite legit, quite legit. Yeah. So they gave me 10,000 credits. I don't know how to use. Yeah, so feel free to use this. Yeah, Minimax. Let me share the chat. Yes, Minimax for music creation. Nisa can build a full album. Can log in. No need. I don't think you need any China login. I'm not too sure because I do have a China phone line. Yeah. If you want to know how to get China phone line, right, just go to China Mobile, Singapore. So this China Mobile, they have a branch in Singapore. So what you want, right, is to get a basic plan and then plus the add-on, the multi-number. So with this multi-number, right, they'll give you a China number. So the purpose of this China number is so that when you're in all this China AI websites, right? For example, like the other time, Seed Dance or Seed Dream, the video creation was only limited to China. Seed Dance, thank you, was only limited to China, and then you can't access it anywhere else. So I had first dips by going to the China website because I had this multi-number. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, 吉梦, wow, say, okay. So essentially, you can just enter the Chinese number and then you'll send an SMS verification to your local number lah. Yeah, so that's how it's being done. And I think the top up is only charges. Is it $5 or $8? I'm not very sure. Can't remember already. But you can check it out. Yeah. But it's very useful. If let's say you go to China a lot, right? Yeah. First, you need to get a base number, a base plan, and then after that, add a top up. Okay. Let's go back. All right. Okay, can we build the workflow into a skill that we can use? Okay, so what else? Test prompt to run. Run 1. So now we're testing the skills to see if the workflow is okay. So when you're building a skill, right, you always test your skills. Yeah. And you can see on the right side. So currently it's using the skill creator skill to help us to build a skill. And then you can see the progress, the plans, to-do plans. So right now we are on stage 4, run test case with and without skill in parallel. Then after that, generate static evaluation viewer and share link, read feedback and iterate on skill, and then package into the .skill file and deliver. Okay. So this will take a few minutes. So meanwhile, we let it run and let me jump on to another thing again. So today is like a brain dump because I have people telling me want to learn like Nisa, right? Wanted to learn what is Claude. Okay, Claude design. Claude just came out with this Claude design. Okay, so what is Claude design? Claude design, right, is a design assistant. What coaching session? The Palang session. Everything under the sun also can teach. There's so many things they can teach for AI. Okay. So Claude Design is a new design assistant. So last time, right, when we talk about design, so everyone would use Figma to build your prototyping, build your UI, right? Because right now, we have our AI assisted, and then the thing about China, yeah. Sorry if I'm moving too fast, yeah. But if you're not fast enough, then need to catch up a bit. Try to use your tools after class. Okay. Try to learn as much as you can right now. But you don't need to learn everything as well. Because sometimes you might not need it, sometimes you might need it. So it depends. Yeah. So I was just playing around Claude Design. So Claude, right? Yeah, just now I mentioned this is the AI tool to help us to design. So they are actually completing the puzzle because Claude, they are very good in automation and the workflows in coding, but then they were lacking in terms of the design part. So now they came out with the design part, which is I'm very happy. Okay. So I just built a prototype. I even see people building animated graphics. Yeah. But because I run out of my limits, they're using a different limit and they never put over there what is the limit that they use. So there's a quick tutorial you can see, and then after that you can build your own stuff. So this is an example of what I built. So I built a parking mobile app UI that reminds me when I park, optional lot number and zone, big icons, easy to use. So it came up with this. Okay. Happy wife, happy life. I built this app because my wife was tired of me forgetting where I parked. So now this is a running prototype. You
Oh,
can't
you
build
can
this on.
click already. You can click.
Yes, you can click. So it's like,
Oh my god.
yeah, that's why I said like this.
You can click.
Yeah, if you ask me like why build on Claude Design instead of Claude Code? No, this is the reason because you can click.
Oh my god.
You see?
And then like, can you tell a code to link the back end also to
Yeah.
design?
You can hand over. Okay, so how
Have
you
you
do, right?
have you deployed it? So okay, so what I see is this is exactly like Lovable. Where Lovable you also can preview, except Lovable does all the back end for you. So can this does the back end for you also?
So now this is they want to separate this. So this is actually just for design. Okay, so for you to hand it over to the back end, right? You just go to share and then hand off to Claude Code.
Wow.
So you just, if you're using your terminal, then you just copy command and then use your terminal for Claude Code.
Wow.
On the Claude Code web, then just open in Claude Code web. Then say your design and context are attached. Please implement parkeasy.html. Yeah. So this was the first iteration. No, this was the first iteration of the design. I say, okay, I don't want this design. You see, even the first iteration, it was working as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Wow,
if you
can cancel the Lovable subscription already.
cancel, why are you still on Lovable? You have Claude.
I never use it. Yeah, it's fine.
If you have Claude, bro, I don't know why people are on Lovable when you can do even more things on Claude Code. It's just
true.
because Lovable is visual, you can visual, right?
I would say that Lovable is still one of the easiest to use. Like in December, I built the UCA coaching app like with nothing. Like, and this was in December of last year. This was like 4 months ago. I only built it with Lovable and nothing else. Like, I didn't have to do any backend and stuff like that. So I would say like Lovable is still like super easy. You know, like how people love iPhones because it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah. It is easy to use until you hit hit the hit the wall, and until you hit the credits as well, and then you find it is so expensive, then you rather go with a coding plan. Yeah. So once you
No,
learn,
this part easy is from where? Is it only the for Max subscription or what?
okay, so I mean my Park Easy, this one is the app I built, my mobile app.
Or you build it on code, is it?
Yeah. So I built this.
Or
Actually,
design? Okay.
I built this first on a Vibe coding platform. Then I hand over the code to Cloud Code to enhance. Mm.
So this Cloud AI, this design is not part of the desktop app, right? Because I don't know about this thing until you show it to
Yeah.
me. Oh, okay.
So this is web-based only. And then the limits is different from your plan limit. I'm not too sure. It's very stingy right now. You see, and it only gives me only reset on Saturday.
So it's a different plan from the Max one.
You will see the
Lucas, Lucas,
Hmm?
on your browser, you just go to claude.ai/design. That's where you can access this. I just dropped the link in the chat. It's my first time using this as well. The branding is shared.
Yeah.
So do you suggest let's say you design your own page, your thing, you use this design, then you go to build in the code. It will be better and nicer things, is it?
Nicer, because now you can see. And then okay, so let's say for example I want to change this. I go to edit, I click edit. So imagine this is like your Figma. Just change up. Be husband.
But bro, I tell you, all product designer is going to die soon. Out of job.
Yeah, we out of job soon.
Don't need product designer. I can cancel my designer already.
Yeah, but you still need design thinking lah, right? If you don't have design thinking, then you also personal taste, personal preference. Yeah. So as a designer, what they are good at is their preferences. They know what works, what is beauty, Yeah. So you can make the tweaks. Yeah. So this homepage save. Right. Well, I don't know what's this.
What if you want to like just edit one page only? Then like how do you tell it? Do you say like, oh, page number 10, I want this to be done, right?
Also can. Yeah. You can
Or
either,
like page number 2.
you can talk over here and just say page 1, page 2, or you can just screenshot.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You screenshot then you paste it in the chat.
Yeah, because right now I hit my limit already, so I cannot demo anymore. But then just want to show you like how easy this is. And also you can even draw, let's say for example, I don't like this. Then I say I would actually circle or type anywhere in the note. Type anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Or you can use voice. Okay. This is something new. Hello, can you hear me? I think I hit my limit. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's sending. Hit my limit. Okay. Anyway, so this is Claude AI. So for you to hand over to okay, you can export as PDF, you can send to Canva. So that means if you're building something, right, and then you want to enhance it further on Canva, right, you can do it. So this is useful if you want to build a website, you want to visualize your website before coding it, or you want to build your presentations, or you want to build animated graphics, you can do it over here as well. Okay, so what you do is after you build, right, then you just download the project as a zip. Yeah, and then you hand over, or you can just let this export as a standalone HTML. So if let's say you're just building a very simple website, yeah, I think this one you can just export to HTML. I'm not too sure if it has the forms capabilities and everything. Yeah, or you can just hand it off to Claude Code. Okay, so that's Claude design for you. Number 2, I want to show you if you're in the Gemini, right? ecosystem, you can do something similar as well. So this is Stitch, right? Stitch version 2. So for Stitch, right? Okay, I also give them the same prompt. Create a parking mobile app for me. Yeah, but Stitch, not as sleek. Yeah, not as sleek as the design, not as sleek as Claude. But still, it gives you the whole design system. Anything you want to change, you can change. Yeah. And we can also click this.
Hey, what are we designing?
We are designing a mobile parking app. I want to change the blue tones to red tones.
Amazing! What's first up?
Change the buttons to red.
Which screen were you thinking of for that change?
All the screens.
Ah, got it. Should we change the buttons on the Mark My Spot screen?
Yes. Yes.
Let me get that for you. I mean,
Yeah, Jaina, you can use this to design landing page. Just that right now you don't need to design, you just need to talk. Just need to, as simple as talking to the AI designer. So that's the cool thing about Gemini, the Stitch, Google Stitch, right? Is that it's live with you on the session, and then it sees what you see as well. Yeah. So now you have two tools. One is your Claude design, and one is your Google Stitch. Yeah. Let me just drop the link as well. Okay, are you all learning anything so far? Learning anything? Let me know. Kingsley says yes. Huda says yes. Lucas says great. Steve says yes. Ernie says yes. Nisa says so much, learning so much things, overloaded. Jaina says yes. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Let me get back to our finale. Okay, a lot of things to learn, huh? Yeah, every day I'm learning as well.
So how are you gonna make $1 million with this?
Make $1 million with this,
Claude, give me a plan to make $1 million tomorrow with zero capital down.
That's what I want to know as well, the $1 million question. Yeah. Oh, I actually I saw this this AI agent, right? That claims that it can be able to run businesses for you, and it has its own LLC, its own bank account. I haven't verified yet. I think it's US based.
This is what crypto was doing, I think 1 year back, right? They give the Twitter agent, to make his own content, post his own content, tell it to grow to 100,000 followers, give it a crypto bank account. And then he was sending money to his fans. He says, paint me on the wall, paint me on the wall, make a song for me. Then I was paying its fans. So the agent is paying people I think since 1 or 2 years ago.
Right. Okay. Any questions so far? Today I think we have covered a lot of things. We covered how to build a research agent, and then after that, on top of it, right, how do you stack on a cold email agent? And then after that, plus we did a scheduled task, so it runs automatically without us sending. But at the same time, there's a human in the loop. So the human in the loop, right, is where you approve the draft emails. It's good to go, then you say good to go, and then you will auto send from your Gmail. Yeah. And also, I also show you how you were able to build a skill. So like right now is currently using what the existing workflow that we have, right, to build a skill. So the thing about building a skill is that you need to verify the workflow first, make sure it's running well. And once it's running well, then after that, we will view it, we will vet. After vetting, and then we'll package it into a skill. All right. So why I want to use for this skill, why do I want to build this research assistant into a skill? Because so that if next time I want to target other industries, I want to target other countries, I don't need to give the whole workflow and teach Claude how to do this system again, because now everything is bundled into a skill, right? So what it does, right, it is, that means you go to the skill and read the documents, right? So the document is MD document. So it's a markdown file, simplified text for AI agents to read, right? So the AI agent will read, go into the skill and learn the skill. So it's like your matrix, right? Or you can upgrade your skills any point in time, right? So this is the matrix world for you. And it says that it's running all 6 runs in parallel. That means it's running multiple agents. So when you hear people say, oh, what is a multiple agent orchestration? You hear a lot of people saying all these buzzwords, right? Multi agents orchestration. Is it correct spelling? Yeah. So this is what you're seeing right now. It just means the task running in parallel. All right, benchmark with skill, without skill. Wow, so you see with skill, right, there's 82.1 pass rate. Without skill is 45.8 pass rate. Okay, great. Just let's just package. It's taking a bit too long. This skill. Okay. Oh yeah, there's something new over here. I just saw it on my app today. There's this thing called the live artifacts. So they actually create the dynamic artifacts that stay up to date using live data from your connectors. If let's say you are connected to, for example, crypto, just I mentioned about crypto, right? So let's say you're connected to crypto, all right? Or you connected to your email address, and then you can build something like a daily attention board. So you'll show you what needs to yeah. So like, for example, it shows me the daily attention, okay, my email inbox, or whatever kind of connectors that I connect. So this one will update.
Wow. You know, I saw someone doing like a dashboard for content creators, influencers, right? So what if you can make a dashboard of which is their best post from TikTok, from Instagram, from Threads, and then like and then you can sort it by their top videos. So I saw someone saying that those can sell really well. So so as long as you know how to set this up for someone else, then like you can potentially sell one for a couple of $1,000.
I think you just need to know how to get the API, how to link up to all the social media tools. So once all the connections are all set up, right, then you will have a live dashboard for this already. Yeah. It's just a matter of figuring out how. There's no skills button. It will just help you to build a skill. You just go to co-work, right? And say, help me build this into a skill. Yeah. Yes, it's just prompt. Okay, I'll stop. Okay. So for example, just now you're mentioning about I want a live dashboard of content creators in generative AI. Look at their top 5 recent posts. What else? In Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. How are we able to do that? You just ask. Yeah, Nisa. So for just now, right, the research assistant. So you say, just help me to build this as a skill. Just use this simple prompt will do. Okay, so Facebook, you need the YouTube data API. You need Instagram, Facebook Graph API. Okay.
Which can get from Composio, right?
Composio doesn't have the Instagram. I think it has Instagram, but no Facebook Graph API. Can we use Composio for any of this? I think Composio have the YouTube. It's connected to my YouTube. Oh, another live dashboard that you can build, right, is you can build a ads dashboard. If let's say you are running ads on multi-channels, you're running on LinkedIn, you're running on Google or Meta, so you can link everything from Composio. Oh, okay. Composio shows you have YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook connected.
Oh, perfect.
Full access to any public channels, recent videos. Okay. And here's the catch. Graph API only lets you read posts that you manage. Okay. So this one, you need the Meta API. You need to build a Meta API, the Graph API. Okay. But let me just show this YouTube first. Other most views, most engagement. Views. I'll go with top 5. Most views. Sometimes the execution might not be there. Then you need to find a way. It's good if you have a few content creators in mind already. Yeah. So I don't know what's all these are. Okay. So you can constantly have a competitor dashboard live. So whenever their content come in, right, then you can see the content. Yeah, that's a very good idea.
Yeah, I think the top 3 would be like a dashboard for your content to see what works the best. The number 2 is ads. And number 3, I think, is a system that, can, make tweets for you, make carousel for you.
So for that, you don't need a
auto
dashboard.
post content for you.
Yeah, that one you just need an auto post. Just use the scheduled task on your co-work.
Can it post or need another API? Because 2 months back need another API.
Okay,
Can
so
it co-post?
another work around it, right, is for it to use your browser.
Oh, then don't
Yeah,
need API lah.
the API. Yeah. So the thing about OpenClaw,
Oh,
right, is that it's very legit because you need all the API, right? Yeah. And sometimes the API are not the easiest to navigate with.
okay. Noted. I learned something today. I think the biggest thing I learned is can just use browser as it just to use browser.
Yeah. Because they'll tell you, oh, I hit a limit. Because
Yeah,
they
don't
are,
need to overcomplicate things.
yeah, just say use my damn browser. Sometimes I'll say you can use my computer, and you got my computer use, you got my browser use. There's nothing you can't do.
So now you've got co-work. Like,
Yeah.
what are you using OpenClaw for?
OpenClaw is for me to chat. So and also OpenClaw it acts as my personal assistant. So it helps me to triage my emails and also look at my calendar. So it will personalize. I say, hey, they'll look at my morning calendar, right, and say, okay, these are the things that I have in mind. And then I say, okay, for this item, right, send me a reminder 30 minutes before. I know you can do this on your calendar app, but for me, it's like I want it to message me. So because I look at my WhatsApp
Oh, so
and
you got it connected to your WhatsApp.
yeah, it's connected to my WhatsApp.
Is it stable?
Not stable right now because as you see just now, it went wild. You went to the group chat and check.
What about for your ads? Is it stable? Connecting to your ads?
I never the other time I connect to my ads, right? But I never use it a lot. So I use it to also help me to build landing pages.
Yeah, last time it was super unstable. Like it took me forever to get a key. Then a key only lasts 24 hours. So yeah, I mean, I tried this like 2-3 months back lah. So yeah, maybe things are different now.
Oh, cool. I'm also seeing this.
Oh, live artifact.
No results from YouTube API. Okay, maybe it's loading. What? What do you mean no results? Okay.
So for the cases that you actually made money from this is cold emailing WSQ schools. Any other use case where you actually like successfully make money from this, Brandon?
So far I've only tried this WSQ schools, and it's keeping me very busy because of they all want me to teach agentic AI OpenClaw.
Good lah, mark up your price lah, can
Okay. So okay.
Oh, can you upsell the students that come to your skills future class?
Cannot lah. It's government one, bro. Cannot upsell.
Oh,
You can say
for the Malaysia equivalent one, I was like, can I ask them to book a call after the session? Yeah, can, sure. You just ask them to book a call after the session.
wow.
But so yeah, so but then the quality is not super high lah, because imagine they came with their company budget, so they came to the class free lah. So there's no skin in the game. Then then the course book will be broke also.
Yeah, true. Okay, this version won't crash on undefined values. Rule down section. Okay, I don't know what's this. So basically, I don't know coding. So what I do is sometimes I just or copy and paste just everything hand over to Claude.
Yeah. Okay
Yeah,
lah, bro. Yeah. Don't have to build this on this call lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Sige na,
sharing with just sharing and bouncing ideas with everyone.
yeah, but this is a good idea. Yeah. Okay. I think I have actually shown you guys a lot of things. Don't want to overload you further. Yeah. Any more questions before we end? No questions? Yeah. If no questions, then just wait for the recording. Okay, so this time around, I got the recording ready. No worries. You're welcome, Lucas.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Brendan. Yeah, what should we vibe code in next 2 weeks for your session? Let's like vibe code some shit in GHL with Lucas as well.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, why not? Like, we're all like busy with our own stuff, but why don't we find the time to collaborate and cook some dope shit?
Yeah. Let me see if I can hook OpenClaw to GHL. Then you can just WhatsApp to your GHL and say, hey, help me build a landing page.
How's your OpenClaw setup? You got another laptop or you running it virtual machine?
I'm running on virtual machine. Oh yeah. So you were asking me about another use case, right? So I've actually built a landing page automation. So this landing page automation, right? That means it will go, first of all, you will go and seek for vet clinics. Yeah. So vet clinics that don't have a website. So once it seek for the vet clinic that don't have a website, right? Then after that, second thing is it will build a landing page, and then you host it, and then after that it emails to the leads, and also shows them the link, and also it builds a GIF of the screenshot, yeah, of the walkthrough of the website. So everything hands off. I don't need to do anything. Yeah. But so far I haven't get any replies yet. Yeah. But the concept is very cool. I mean, it's just a automated website builder on its own, and it does send out its own builds. Yeah.
Yeah, worth tracking the tokens also lah. Like how many tokens you used to build one website. So let's just say it's $5 per website. Then you know that okay, like your cost per lead is I don't know what $50 a lead. So you know that to break even you must at least get one guy to pay out of 100 or something like that.
To track tokens, yeah, I mean you can do that, but then if I have the coding plan already, then I don't think I need to track the tokens. What I want to track maybe is like maybe your subscription plan, then you divide by 30 days. And each day, then okay, how much can you make back? Yeah. So ideally you can sell your websites for damn cheap, because since everything is already automated and hosted on a free server anyway. Yeah, I use Vercel and also Netlify.
Yeah, I think it's just building one core offer and then selling the hell out of that one core
Yes.
offer lah, which is exactly what I'm trying to do also.
Yeah. So I think the voice callers will make sense because it's niche. It's not like websites like wow, low competition, anyone can build a website. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. We'll use some of the skills from this class. Thanks, Coach Brendan.
All right, thank you everyone. I think it'd be even cooler if let's say your OpenClaw or your Claude, right, can have access to the system, the voice agent system behind back end, and then you just build demo for every one of them. And then they'll be, wow, okay, that's sick.
Yeah, that's actually possible because there's the developer docs. So like I saw one guy, right, like before he builds anything, he will search, for example, if before you use GHL, right? So he will search GHL developer docs, or like, I don't know, API developer docs, right? Then you upload that developer docs to Code or Cowork, so that Code or Code knows how to use every single function.
Correct.
And
Right.
then Uni tells it to go and build. So yeah, that is definitely possible. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. We'll try it out and let you know.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the time.
Thanks, Coach Brandon. See you next 2 weeks.
See you. Thank you.